So, hello. Can everyone hear me? Please let me know if it's okay. I'm not sure if everyone can hear. Can you guys hear me? Okay, thank you. So I'll start, and in case you cannot hear me, just let me know. Welcome everyone. Have a lovely, hope you're having a lovely day. This was such a beautiful day. So I am a volunteer. My name is Helen, and I'm going to be facilitating this discussion on a very, very important topic, which is reincarnation, which in my opinion is one of the most important beliefs we can adopt and we can study. So let me see does this improve? Maybe I'll just disconnect this. Wait, let me just see. Is it any better? Can you guys hear me? Well, I'll start. And if it got worse, you just let me know, and then I'll put the earphone back again. All right? So, okay, thank you. So, as we always do, we start by connecting with our hearts and connecting with the higher spirits that are here present, and especially our mentor, like our spiritual mentor, that's always interested in our growth and our understanding. So you can sit in your chairs and relax. I'm going to close my eyes because I think I concentrate better that way. All right? So if everyone wants to just relax in their chairs, calm the mind, and connect with our spiritual mentor or guardian angel or spiritual guide. This spirit is the one who has the most interest in our development, in our growth. And let's ask our mentor, our personal mentor, to help us connect with higher beings, with more evolved spirits, so they can assist us and inspire us during these 30 minutes that we're going to be together, so we can really broaden our understanding of the topic that's going to be discussed. And even more than that we can bring that knowledge and apply it to our everyday lives to help us in our path of evolution. So we thank the spirits that are here present next to each one of us, and the Paul and Stephen Spiritist Center mentors. May they inspire us, open our hearts, and open our minds. So be it. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. So like I said, today's topic is reincarnation. And like I mentioned briefly in the beginning, in my understanding, that concept is life-changing. And because it's life-changing, I am going to invite and encourage you to study the topic and not just listen to what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you some books where you can find the information that I use to study, and go and study, because this can transform somebody's life. And I know most of you watching already have the belief in reincarnation, but it might be that some that will listen to what I'm saying is still learning about the concept, or might not even have a firm belief. And hopefully by the end of our chat, you're going to see that nowadays you can even find studies that actually, because of the number people that they investigated, it really constitutes proof of another life, like that we live more than one life. All right, so I'm going to encourage you to study the Spirit's book. And these are the two books that I use, Genesis. Both of them you can download for free on the internet, the PDF forms, okay? And with the Spirit's book, I would encourage you to start reading the introduction or the explanatory notes and session 6, where this section 6 in the explanatory notes is where you have like a brief summary of all the main concepts of the Spiritist philosophy. Because the belief in reincarnation associated with the belief in a supreme intelligence that's the source and creator of all things, that will help the person navigate through life's challenges much, much easier, and also build resilience and strengthen faith, which is very helpful. And in this moment that humanity is going through, I think that's actually fundamental if we have that. And you're also able to support other people that are going through hardship, because you are there as a faith keeper, let's say, where you can explain things that other people might not have the understanding. Okay, so I encourage you to study this, so the introduction, but also the part that talks about reincarnation. In this book, it's actually chapter 8, but in the Brazilian book, it's chapter 4 of part 2 of the book, right? So, and hopefully in the end we'll have time that I will share with you some of the studies conducted by a psychiatrist and a psychologist during many years with many people, and where you can find this information if you're still unsure, or if you want to see how science is in terms of reincarnation. Because Allan Kardec, which wrote all the books, I mean, he compiled and he put together all the books, he always encouraged us to study, to question, to be extremely curious, and to make sure that your faith is based on a solid knowledge, and that can face science and can face philosophy in any time. So we're going to see what's the state of the art, let's say, of people that study reincarnation. And for those who are still in a little bit of doubt, they can see that there are many, 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 many cases around the world that you can actually see that there is reincarnation. So if we look at Genesis, what it says in chapter 11, and the item number is 33, is that the principle of reincarnation is a necessary consequence of the law of progress. So we have divine laws, and one of the divine law is the law of progress. And reincarnation is a consequence of the law of progress. And Allan Kardec, he asked the spirits, and that's in question 167, what is the purpose of reincarnation? What is that? So just a little parenthesis here, reincarnation is the concept where the soul will inhabit different bodies. So our spirit doesn't die. Since it was created, it will live forever. But we do come into the physical body and experience the physical existence, and our body dies. But our spirit goes on, and then the spirit reincarnates in a different body. That's what the Spiritist philosophy tells us, and that's what science is catching up and is now proving that is true. And this idea is not a recent idea. It didn't start with the Spiritist philosophy. It's actually very, very ancient, like from the beginning of time, like from the dawn of time. This concept already existed through different philosophers. Okay, So Allan Kardec asked, what is the purpose of reincarnation? And what the spirits answered was, I'm going to read it just to make sure. The progressive advancement of humanity. So reincarnation is for us to progress. And it's not to progress only spiritually, but physically. The whole world, like knowledge, spiritual knowledge, knowledge in general. And you see, as the spirits reincarnate throughout time, you can see an evolution in the mindset, in the way people think, in their level of awareness, and also a change in our biology and a change in our environment. So reincarnation facilitates that in a sense, because it builds on knowledge. And the spirits tell Kardec, imagine if every spirit like every body that is born with a spirit who knows nothing. It would take a very, very, very long time for people to evolve, for the world to grow, because you're born, you don't know anything, and then you live that life, which 80 years is nothing, 100 years is nothing, and then you pass, and then you go to a place, and that's it, and then new spirits are starting from zero. So actually, and this he asks in another question, which is question 171, Kardec asks, what is the basis for the belief in reincarnation? And you know what the spirits answered? The basis is the divine justice. Because how could we explain all the differences that happen in the world if we can't see that this is a matter of different spirits in different levels of understanding that come from different past experiences, and therefore are in a different part of their journey, their evolutionary journey. And this is what they say. They say that it is part of the divine justice, and that's what justifies reincarnation. Because how can you explain a child that's born with a disease where the other one is born very, very healthy and lives until their 80s? And how can you explain the geniuses, like children that are born and they sit in front of a piano and they play like they had studied all their lives? How could we explain that? But if we insert the concept of reincarnation, that we live past lives, then that makes it really easy to understand. And I don't know if we're going to have time, but hopefully we will, because there are many questions that Kardec asked, and that's why I encourage you guys to study, that I won't be able to cover. But he asked difficult questions, and what happens with different people when their body dies. And I'm not going to be able to cover everything, but we're going to get there. All right. So, and it's connected to the divine justice, because you reap what you sowed. So whatever it is that you plant in one life, you either reap it in that life or in a future life. And sometimes people think of only negative things that they might do and that will have consequence in other lives. But good things that you do also have positive consequences in your future life. And we have to keep that in mind. All right? And many, many, many spiritual leaders came to earth and they shared, which is kind of the underlying belief of most of religion, is the golden rule that says, do unto others what you would want others to do unto you. And that really comes back to what the Spirit said here about the divine justice. So when you do unto others what you wish that others would do unto you, you are sowing or planting something that you wish to reap in the future. You shouldn't think that way, but I'm just explaining the logic. We should do good, and we should be good and ethical because that's the right thing to do. We're not going to do because it's going to have a consequence. But it's important that we understand, because if we have that understanding, we can accelerate our learning and our development. And that was another question that Kardec asked, which is question 169. And it says, is the number of incarnations the same for all spirits? What do you guys think? Would it be the same with all this diversity? No. So they answered no. And what they explain afterwards is that some will advance quicker, and therefore they will go through less trials or tribulations because they dedicated more. And we're going to try to look at how can we do that to contribute to our progress in this incarnation. Since we are, if you're listening to this, then you're getting the information. And like I said, because I'm a student of the Spiritist philosophy, I too am subject to what the way that I understand what's written. So that's why I encourage everybody to study, because it might be that you have a better understanding than me, and when you read it, you're gonna see even more things than I can see. Okay? Because I am limited to my degree of evolution in understanding. All right? And that's why I encourage. And Kardec also asked this question: what happens to a spirit after its last incarnation? What do you guys think happens to a spirit after its last incarnation? A dream, right? So what happens to the spirit? And this is what they answered: it enters into a state of perfect happiness as a purified spirit. So as we go through our lives and we grow and we develop, this is a good thing to think. Every incarnation, we are closer to perfection. Like to perfection, because we're never going to get to perfection, but towards, let's say, our perfect happiness. So every incarnation is a step towards your perfect happiness. Isn't that a good thing to think of? And since we know all that, we know first that reincarnation is a means of progress. It underlines the law of progress. What you do in one lifetime will affect what happens in future lives. It will contribute or it won't. So what is it that we can do to accelerate? Well, we have to start looking, studying, and looking at ourselves. And this we always, like, it's a topic it seems to always come back. And maybe because that's an important topic, that we have to learn about ourselves. And Hamed, in a book called Changing Attitudes, I'm not going to remember which lesson, but the book is amazing. It's worth reading the whole thing. He says that what we really need to change within ourselves is the way we see things. It's our understanding of things. When we change our understanding, things change inside us. So we focus on that. And where can we find now in science any proof or any is there a possibility of finding proof of reincarnation? So there's three things that we can kind of research. There were three kinds of groups of study that they did. So the first thing is the near-death experience. There was a psychologist who was also a physician and a philosopher. His name was Raymond Moody. Dr. Raymond Moody, in the 70s, now just a reminder that the internet only started in 1991. So in the 70s, there was no internet. There was no way that people were communicating with each other. And even in 1991, it was the beginning of the internet. So when they started this research, it wasn't something that people, they really had to be there and listen and then investigate things. They couldn't get it off the internet, for example, which we have that today. So Dr. Raymond Moody, he started studying people who had experienced near death. And what is that near death experience? If you look that up, even in scientific journals, you will find that that is something that they are investigating. So people would say have a cardiac arrest where your heart stops, it starts pumping blood to your brain, and you're considered to be dead, and then they resuscitate you. Resuscitate as a medical term, okay? And you come back to life. And in those milliseconds that you seem to have been dead, your spirit experiences things that when the person comes back, some of them remember what happened. And Dr. Raymond Moody, he started chatting with these people and interviewing them, and he started noticing a pattern and of what they were saying, that actually their body, they noticed that the body was dying, but they weren't. That the body was in trouble, but they weren't. And some saw different things. If you want to go investigate that further. But what he found interesting is that some people, they had like a review of their life, and they could see events from this life that they were just struggling to continue in the life, linked to past existence. And one of the persons said that it was like a golden kind of thread that connected that to something in the past, and it was like something was being solved. And when they came back, they actually remembered to tell the story. Isn't that interesting? So if you're interested in learning that, Raymond Moody, he's not a spiritist. He's struggling trying to make sense of what the information he collated. But he said many things, and they're both of the people I'm going to talk about, they're alive. I think Raymond Moody is 76, and Dr. Brian Weiss, which is WEISS. Dr. Brian Weiss was a psychiatrist and a hypnotherapist. And he wasn't studying near death, so near death is one thing. He was studying past, like he would regress people. He had no belief whatsoever on anything. And one day, one of his clients that was in the 80s, he said to her, she was suffering from anxiety, and he said, while she was in trance, like hypnotic trance, he said, let's go back to where that problem started. But little did he expect that she did. And it wasn't in this life. And in the beginning, he said, and you can see his interview with Oprah. He had an interview with Oprah, and it was in 2013. And he said that in the beginning, as a psychiatrist, he said, she's making that up. It's like a protective ego mechanism. She's creating this parallel story because she can't really confront that. But he said that as he worked with her, after that he had more sessions, because in the first one it didn't solve the problem. But he said he noticed she started feeling better. And he said, strange, somebody imagining something kind of crazy, and that's helping them. And he says that on Oprah, that what convinced him was one day, and listen to this, how interesting. I bet many people haven't heard the story. He said that one day she was regressed, and then she got into an in-between state that she couldn't explain. And she said to Dr. Brian Weiss, your father is here, and so is your son. Remember, in the 80s, no internet. She couldn't have researched any of this. And she said, your father is telling you that the day he died, and then she told everything, like details that it was impossible for her to say. And she said, your newborn child, which is your son, who died in a very early age, he's also here, and he's a ball of light. And he's sending his love and whatever. And he said that his problem was because his heart was not in a good position. Now, can you imagine the state of this doctor? He was in shock. He said that was the day, he said, she couldn't know these things, especially about my baby son. Nobody knew, not even family. He and his wife kept that just for them. And there was this lady in trance saying that his father and his son was there. And he said, if that was right, maybe all the rest was right. So he started investigating past lives. And from that, he wrote many, many books. He has one book I think it's called Many Lives, Many Masters. And he has no religious belief, and he states that. He said, he even has a YouTube channel, and he talks about very important modern topics from what he learned. Like, for example, suicide, which is so interesting, even for us who have a knowledge to look. Because when he studied for so long and he knew what happened to people, he actually could kind of set kind of like a scenario where he could kind of tell, because it was a pattern, if a person behaved in this certain way, this is what happened from one life to another. It is very interesting. I really like that. So it's Dr. Brian Weiss, W-E-E-I-S-S, and Dr. Raymond Moody. So past life therapy, he didn't start as a therapy. He started with a hypnotherapy, and then it acquired that name. And the other thing is spontaneous past life memories or recollections. That is very common in children. And in my family, I have 2 cases of that. But Dr. Raymond Moody, he talks about that. And it's common even in adults. Adults have sometimes like recollection of a certain time in the past in a different life. But children is very, very common. But some people dismiss it because they say, they're making it up. It's all in their head. But like I said, in my family, my niece said something to me and to her mom that was like beyond. But my nephew, he said something that would be impossible for him to know. Because he told his dad, he didn't tell me, he told my brother, he said, do you remember, Dad, that house that you lived, that the windows used to shake? And that was before my brother was even dating his wife, like my sister-in-law. So it would be impossible, because he said, I was there, Dad. Do you remember that house? And then my brother said, yes, I do. So there are many, many stories. There's a story of this girl in Sri Lanka, if I'm not mistaken. Because the family was Buddhist and they believed it, she said she knew details, like she knew everything, like her name, how she died. And it was a close by village, and she went there and she visited the family, and she knew like details about that. So science is catching up with what the spirits brought to Allan Kardec in the 1950-ish, 58, but the books were published in the 60s, 1860s, sorry, not 19. So as Kardec always said, pay attention to science. If science says something that is not according with what is written here, follow what science says. Because it might be that something that I might have misunderstood. Because think of him in 1967, 68, 69. How could he predict all the changes in science? It was impossible. He was a very knowledgeable human being, very intelligent. He knew that things would change, and it might be that he had made some mistake. But so far, actually science is catching up with what the Spiritist philosophy has brought us. So if you're curious, like I said, I recommend go to a reliable source, but also have a look at what science is discovering at the moment. There are many different things on the internet, as you guys may know, and some things are not going to be very accurate. Try to look at the people who are seriously doing research, and not somebody who's just saying something out of their head, or because they heard, or because somebody who's really has a scientific kind of approach. Okay? I hope you guys got some value from what I brought today. And before I finish, I would like to invite everyone who's watching, and you can invite people that you know, to our live fundraising event that we're going to have. It's going to be today at 7 p.m. and it's going to be on the Paul and Stephen Spiritist Center page. And there you're going to be able to contribute to all the causes that we help. So we help different causes in Brazil, in Africa, and even here in Australia. So we have the breakfast packs and hygiene packs for the homeless here. We support impoverished children. We support A2B that helps different kind of charities, and also a house in Rio that supports orphans and helps them with studies. So first, the music's going to be amazing. It's Brazilian music. Carlos is one of our volunteers. He's going to be the one performing, and he's an amazing musician. So everyone is invited. Before we finish, I'm going to ask all of us to send vibrations of love, and that's what we do at the very end. So I invite everyone to connect with their hearts, and from there we're going to provide the higher spirits or the higher beings with positive energy, where they can take that energy to the places that in the planet we need the most. And let's face it, we need it right now, right? So gathering our thoughts and elevating our thoughts towards the higher spirits that work to promote progress, peace, and harmony on this beautiful planet that we call our planet Earth. And as we elevate our thoughts and our hearts, we imagine that this energy that comes out of our heart comes together as a ball of light. And we ask that this light is taken to all the places in the planet where there's suffering, but also taken to all the people that work towards progress, towards health, towards peace, towards development. Fill these people with energy, with will, with strength, and with faith. We also ask for all the people that govern, all the people that are influencers. May they be touched in their hearts so they can cooperate with the beings of light that are trying to make this planet a better planet for all of us to live. May these people who have influence understand their role and contribute to this new world that we're walking into. We also ask protection for all those people that are suffering around the world with the current situation. All the families, all people that are hospitalized, may they feel peace in their hearts as well. We ask that this love and this protection goes to everyone that we have trouble dealing with, and all the people that we love. And we finally imagine that this light comes also back to us, and that we can share this throughout our week with every person that we get in contact with, even virtually. So stay with us. So be it. Well, everyone, I'll see you guys all in 15 minutes, I think. In 10 minutes, okay? In the Facebook page for Paul and Stephen. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night.